Yeah, and you know, I wish we had updated, but you know, there again, I mean, some of those statistics can be, yeah, look at 70 to 75 on the deer side. I mean, look at how much of a loss we had right there. Isn't that staggering? So that's when you went to a draw. So what's that tell you? When anytime you go to a draw, some people are just going to dive out of it.
Guys, hello, you're late. You'll stand in.
Looks like we're getting a feed coming through. We're good?
Is it really?
Warriors of the East.
Yep.
Are we sure?
It's quite a list.
No, I just have some. No, it's not. It's not. It looks more than it is, probably. How about that?
Live feed.
How about it, boys?
Gotta get past the commercials. This isn't monetized, so it's got to go through the commercial first.
Must be. Yeah.
Maybe.
Guys, we're live.
Are you sure?
I think
Are
so.
you sure? Guys?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, guys, it's no question where we're at. If you've been in Oregon and been to the best bow shop, I would say, in the western United States, if not the world.
Yeah.
Anyway, today we've talked to Wayne. This is Wayne Endicott. If you don't know Wayne, huge advocate of bow hunting, huge advocate of anything hunting related, actually. And anyway, he owns the Bow Rack here in Springfield. And we just thought we'd sit down. We've been talking for a while. We thought we'd just sit down and talk. Wayne is probably more educated, probably than 90% of.
Yeah, I mean, give a little accolades
Yeah.
just on what your involvement in the.
So, yeah, I've been vice president of Oregon Bow Hunters, and I've probably been up in Salem, you know, kind of at a lobbying level, you know, involved with their meetings and everything for probably 25 years, you know, and a lot of the things that, you know, we've accomplished over the years, just a few, you know, your love it or hate it, your mandatory harvest reporting, that was an Oregon Bow Hunters, you know, proposal. You know, of course, late season, you know, blacktail hunting is an Oregon Bow Hunters proposal. We're the oldest stakeholder group in Oregon. I think it was 1948, I think it was, when we formed. And it went under a few different names, but, you know, we've been around for eternity. So we're the oldest stakeholder group in Oregon. So a lot of accomplishments. We're always, you know, there, you know, at the commission meetings, and we always had a good presence. And you know, we're a little bit proactive. You know, we've had, you know, the late season Beulah, you know, deer hunt, Heart Mountain, you know, those were Oregon Bow Hunter proposals, you know, back when we were pushing for, you know, late season stuff. So just, you know, always, you know, interested in preserving and promoting archery. I mean, that's our mission statement as Oregon Bow Hunters, is we, you know, promote archery and bow hunting. You know, so, you know, we're always in a promotion mode, you know, and, you know, we're always there. So it's been a good time up there being involved with Oregon Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
And then do you sit with anything in the ODF&W at all in the panel?
So I've been on, I'm in there on leadership. We just had a leadership meeting in the Dalles, you know, so for Oregon Bow Hunters, I represent leadership along with, you know, OHA, you know, was there at that same meeting, you know, Jim Atkinson and Fred Wall Savage, good men. You know, they represent OHA, Oregon Hunters Association, and then Stan Steele was there. Stan's with the Oregon Outdoor Council, and Stan's a good man. Stan's been heavy into lobbying. He's retired OSP game officer, career guy, and, you know, very knowledgeable, you know, on all issues, you know, both in the state of Oregon and other states. You know, Stan's just been a great advocate for hunters. And then Robert Moreland, he's with Traditional Archers of Oregon. He was there, and then Dave Wiley was with Rocky Mountain Elk. That's who attended this last leadership meeting. Okay. So yeah, I've sat on quite a few working groups over the years. You know, or, you know, the review groups that we've had in archery in the past. You know, and LOP tags and stuff like that. You know, I've been on a few working groups with them.
Yeah, so just one thing is just kind of, Wayne's very well versed in this, and like Trent and I said, we really wanted to get someone on here that really kind of knew what was going on, kind of get the full story, and you know.
There's been a lot of new things happening just within the last year in ODF&W and our Oregon laws and rules, and some proposals that have come up and stuff like that. And we just kind of wanted to weigh in, and a lot of them, you know, get different opinions, you know.
Right. Well, we're several years weighted into this. So the way this started, and anybody that's, you know, had their ear to the ground on it started with a recruitment and enhancement program.
The 3 R's, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, I couldn't, as far as being excited, I couldn't have been any more excited about, you know, this program. I mean, recruitment and enhancement, you know, I'm like, and, you know, this is great. I mean, you know, we got an opportunity to make, you know, some real changes, some things that hunters are going to like, you know, and Nick Myatt's headed this process up for Oregon Fish and Wildlife, and I think he's been a good man at it. You know, and especially in the beginning, he came in and, you know, we're going to add opportunity where we can, and we're going to simplify the process where we can, and it's going to be a long process. This is going to take years. So this started 3 years ago, and so that first year there, you know, there was a lot of emphasis on that. There was a lot of, you know, ground, you know, foundational stuff laid. And then last year we went to a simplification process, and you see that in our synopsis this year. And there was some changes. There was some deleted hunts. You know, I think they eliminated, you know, quite a few hunts, and just consolidated things quite a bit. You know, so that was a simplification process. And then, you know, rolling into this year, you know, all of a sudden we're into social media. They bring social media into it, and anybody that's kind of been on social media has seen that I've done a lot of proposals. You know, I'm the proposal guy. I've got a mule deer plan. I waded into every single species, whether it was Rocky Mountain goat or bighorn sheep or, you know, spring bear, you know, no matter what it was, mule deer, elk, it didn't matter what species it was, I waded into it with proposals. And, you know, I stand at a counter up here, you know, pretty much a lot. And, you know, the most passionate and the best ideas come right in that front door.
Yeah.
And they walk in, they sit down, and they go, why don't we do this? And why don't we do this? And why don't we do this? And this makes total sense and everything. And so for over the years, you know, I've been here, this makes 32 years of owning an archery shop. I've heard every concept, every conservation concept for big game that you could ever hear, right? Because your guys are passionate about it. I mean, there is nobody more passionate about hunting than hunters. I mean, absolutely, we are the conservationists. We love the game. I mean, a cattle rancher, I stopped in Plush years ago. We'd draw Heart Mountain tags, right? And we'd been in there forever. And of course, you got to have a greasy burger. First thing you get out of the woods, 7 days in the woods.
It's the best burger of your life.
Yeah. So we stop in Plush. And if you've ever been in Plush, Oregon, you've missed it if you haven't been there. It's a post office, it's a cafe, it's a bar, all of the above, you know.
Everything.
And there's real people there that live there, that run it. And so we pull in, and there's 4 trailers there, gooseneck trailers with horses still saddled up, all lathered up. Those horses aren't even moving a muscle. They're just dead. And there's cow dogs laying all over the flatbeds, you know, and they're dead as well. And this is in the evening, of course. So we walk in, and here's like 6 real cowboys, and they are as dirty as everything outside because they've been pushing cows forever. And I sat there, and we ate our burgers, and we listened to those guys. And, you know, I came from an agriculture background, so I understand farmers and everything. But, you know, cattle, right? Yeah. Cows. Can you talk about them for very long? So we were there for probably 45 minutes, and I heard more about cows. Those guys were talking cows.
Oh, really?
And I understood none of it. And they were passionate about what they were talking about. And it was like a totally different language. Why? They're cattle ranchers. It's what they do. Nobody loves cattle more than cattle rancher, right? There's nobody knows more about cattle than a cattle rancher, right? They make a living off it. They're passionate about it. I mean, they live it every day. That's what we do. We live the dream here. We're archery hunters. We're bow hunters. We're hunters, you know, in general. And nobody cares more about game. Nobody knows more about game than everybody that walks through those doors. Yeah. So your best, you know, basic foundational conservation ideas come right through that front door. Yeah. Because those guys are like, they're out there every day. I talk to guys that spend way more time than I've ever spent in the woods. I mean, and they share it with you now. I mean, they come in and they got it on a phone and they go, look at this and look at this. And I mean, you can't believe what I got on video. And, you know, here's a coyote taking down a fawn, or, you know, here's a cougar I ran into. You know, it's just crazy. And they're out there all the time, and they're picking up you know, car trailers full of shed antlers, you know, they're spending a lot of time out there. They know what's going on in the woods, they know what's going on conservation-wise, and they get the best ideas. So, you know, all that to say, you know, I've kind of formulated those, kind of come up with some great ideas, and I threw those all out on social media.
Yeah.
You know, and
I've
so
seen a bunch of them.
Yeah,
so this shifted this year with Oregon Fish and Wildlife's proposal to show social media. You saw, you know, Nick Myatt had his social media going, you know, so, you know, we're being sold, you know, this new idea, you know, from Oregon Fish and Wildlife. And, you know, of course, all the groups came to this meeting that we just had in the Dalles, you know, on the 21st, and you know, they all opposed, you know, these new proposals. You know, so, and we probably need to dig into that.
Yeah, let's kind of just dive in kind of on the top level, you know, like it looks like, so their biggest thing, that recruitment, retention, reactivation, and then in the proposals, their whole trying to hit management objectives, simpler seasons and regulations, allocate hunting opportunity fairly and consistently to people.
And that was the second year, and then we're into this, which, you know, and Nick's basis for, you know, for what, you know, the staff is proposing, you know, one part of it is, you know, what he outlined was portability of tags. You know, so somebody will draw a cow tag for Alsea, for example, for a late season cow tag. And, you know, because of harvest reporting, which, by the way, harvest reporting was Oregon Bow Hunters' proposal.
Idea.
Yeah, it was our idea. We pushed it. We got it through. And it took years to get teeth in it. Had to go to legislature to get a penalty and everything. But now we've got it, and it's there, and it's a good tool. We need it. We're as hunters, we all felt like it was time. We're responsible for that. But there again, that comes, and that's kind of the loaded gun we shoot ourselves in the foot with, because now everybody reports what they're doing, right? So Oregon Fish and Wildlife has a good grip on what you're doing. So you draw an Alsea cow tag, never hunt Alsea cows. But you're hunting, you know,
good
Hefner,
for the general archery.
yeah, it's good for the general archery. Or Nick gave us an example in this meeting of a guy that drew a Sled Springs tag, never hunted Sled Springs, spent his time either in Starkey or Ukiah. He never ever went to Sled Springs. And so, you know, that's what harvest reporting does for us. It shows you where you're spending your time, the amount of time you're spending there, and so their concern is that, you know, that's where overcrowding came in. There's another, you know, concern is overcrowding. And, you know, you can, there's all kinds of guys on all sides of the fence with that. But with their survey, you know, and of course, you know, we felt as an organization going in, and all the organizations going in, we felt like the data was skewed because we're the user group, you know, and we should be surveyed on that solely. But, you know, staff's argument was that this is a hunting community and they're going to be surveyed as a whole.
Oh, the whole thing. They grouped everybody together.
Grouped everybody together.
Gotcha.
So everybody's surveyed as a whole.
I gotcha.
And so, you know, my argument with that is, you know, you don't have the Audubon Society weighing in on what falconers should do, right? They don't even want falconers to have a falcon. They definitely don't want falconers to go out and kill ducks with the falcons.
Right.
You know, so, you know, and then it divides the community.
Yeah.
You know,
Which
that's
is the
huge.
worst thing that can
That's the worst thing that can happen. You know, we don't want to drive a wedge, you know. And then this is the other part of it that's giant is, so archery's growing, you know, and we're more and more popular all the time. But we're the only segment of hunting that's growing.
That's growing.
And my argument always is we need to figure out how to offer more opportunity for hunters. And my number one, we all had our opening, you know, speeches in there. My number one speech is like, we can do administrative removal on cats. We can do administrative removal on coyotes.
Right.
You know, we can do habitat programs. So we know for a fact that predatorization is our biggest problem. And I mean, you know, I saw an argument, you know, and I think it came from Nick, that one of our number one problems with mule deer was nutrition. I really take case with that, you know, because let's take the Steens, for example. We're losing mule deer in the Steens. We have for years, 25, 30 years, we've been just steadily losing, you know, deer numbers in the Steens. And we're in trouble with deer numbers in the Steens. So it's an island. It has tremendous habitat. It has tremendous nutrition. It is an island in the middle of a desert that goes up to 9,000 feet, 9,500, 9,600. It's crazy. It's just it has crazy soil types, you know. So you got the habitat, and then not only that, it doesn't have a winter range problem, It has tremendous winter range habitat. Then it doesn't have highway deprivation, which is giant. I mean, you can look at Central Oregon and you got 97, boom, you've got highway deprivation. You got more deer getting killed on that highway and Highway 126 than it's probably killed by hunters in all of east side of the Cascades by all hunters, right? So you don't have that in the Steens. So you got none of that. And then you got one road, basically two roads. You got one that goes from Fish Lake down to Diamond, and you got the loop road. And the rest of it is just there for your enjoyment.
Sure.
If you're tough enough to enjoy it. And it's not a pretty mountain to hunt. I mean, it's marbles, it's volcanic, it's the slickest hillsides you'll ever be on in all of Oregon because everything rolls with you. And I grew up hunting it. I was there when I was 12 years old and started my whole hunting career there.
So you saw it at its
peak. I mean, as a 12-year-old kid sitting in the sagebrush underneath the gun notch in the Kyger Gorge on opening day of hunting season and watch 400 or 500 deer pass by you as a kid, you don't get past that. And today to go over there and even glass up with a good spot and scope and find a mule deer in the Kyger, no. When Roy Roth and Cam Haynes and Dwayne Levitt and Jeff Brooks and I were kids, in the 80s, we'd go over there and see 75 bucks underneath the gun notch in one evening, the day before archery season opened, coming out to feed. 75 in just one spot, and then they were everywhere. And we were big mule deer hunters, even though we couldn't hunt up our car keys or to save our life, let alone kill anything. We were big hunters. We were in there. We could chase those mule deer around with the best of them all day. Yeah, with 24-19 or 22-19 aluminum arrows that 30 yards is a long shot. Right? So
that ecosystem's really just
it's a different ecosystem. So why are we losing deer there? Well, we have predators.
Those things behind you back there.
Yeah, that guy there. They're eating 60 deer a year or more. In the summertime, who knows what they kill for fawns for fun. And they sport kill. I'm sorry, it's a fact. You got a house cat, he sport kills, right? That's no different than that guy. If they've got the resource, they sport kill. Especially in the summertime, they don't eat tainted meat. I mean, they're going to come back. If it's full of bees and maggots, they're not eating it. Wintertime, they slow down. They preserve it. But and then you have all kinds of factors. You have coyotes. You have bobcats. You have birds of prey, which never add into it, raptor birds. And Jeff Brooks and I saw that firsthand in the Kyger Gorge. We saw that firsthand on a golden eagle and mule deer fawns when we were kids in the 80s.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. And they're a big bird, and they kill lots of fawns, and especially in that open, steep country. So that's something that we never weigh in on. But we've got all kinds of pressures, and my argument always is, if we have tools in the toolbox to make hunting better, and we can promote hunting with it, we need to do it.
Let's do something about it.
If there's one thing I know from the archery industry and being a pro shop and selling high-end equipment and good equipment, the best equipment we can sell is if you have a good product, people want to buy it. And there has to be a good product and there has to be service that comes with it, right?
Yep.
And so that's how many people would just dream to have any tag in Arizona, any tag in New Mexico, right? Any tag in Wyoming. You got a good product, any elk tag in Nevada, any premium elk tag in Utah, right? So anybody that has a good product, everybody wants to buy it. So I'm firsthand on points in Utah, and I'm firsthand to tell you that's a hard tag to draw for elk in a premium unit. Right. Very hard tag. And they don't give hardly any tags.
Right.
So, right there, if you've got the product, people want to buy it. Why don't we use all the tools in the toolbox? And there was excuses given in that meeting. I brought that up. The excuse is we don't have the biology to support the removal. And, Stan Steele had a great argument for that. He goes, you can push forward, like Nevada, like Utah. He had a study for Utah that he presented, that he said, hey, Utah did this, you're familiar with this, and they took their elk numbers from here to here on this particular predator removal, area that they had.
Yeah, what you're saying is hunters go in, hunt the predators, so we have hunters actually promoting the game, the mule deer populations.
Well, so administrative removal is not hunters.
It's not. That would be
that is government trapper, or that's a deputized. That's what they've done in Heppner. That's what they've done in the Steens. That's what they've done in Winnahaw. And a lot of times for sheep, we'll do it. You know, we'll go in.
Really?
Yeah, we'll do it for sheep. A lot of times we'll do administrative removal. I think Winnahaw was focused on both elk and sheep. They were trying to restore, you know, bighorn sheep up there, you know, in the Winnahaw, because we'd lost a lot. I think we'd lost it down to where I think they'd eliminated that hunt. And I'm not, you know, sheep hunters, you know, I've killed, I think, some farm animal type sheep, you know, when I've been on different hunts before, like in Maui and Hawaii and that kind of thing. But the whole sheep thing, you know, I'm probably going to push daisies before I ever pull a tag, you know. And there's some 12-year-old kid that's going to get it every year, and I'm not going to get it, right? You know, so even in my hunting circle, we haven't drawn, you know, so it's pretty crazy. But anyway, Phillips worked for me, you know, Chris Phillips, and he drew and killed a giant ram. And it's like, oh, this is like my third year I put in, and look, I drew, you know, one of those things. But anyway, sheep, you know, so I'm not super versed on it, but, you know, I know, you know, sheep have an emphasis. You know, if we're losing a lot of sheep, I know we go in and we do some of them. Yeah, it's definitely taken care of.
Just because the numbers are so
well, it's the revenue. It's the amount of revenue for the animal. You know, so, but we've got this growing group of hunters, right? And it's archery hunters, and it's the young guys, and I mean, they're coming into it and everything, and we need to do everything we can to provide that product, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what we all put into. We don't want a reduction. We don't want to be stifled. And, you know, this was kind of my argument in leadership, and I think everybody in the room agreed, you know, because OHA was definitely adamantly opposed to doing this. I mean, they're in promotion too. You know, Oregon Outdoor Council was adamantly opposed, and of course, you know, Robert Moreland and I, you know, Traditional Archers of Oregon, were adamantly opposed to this, you know, because what happens with draw tags? You go into a draw status.
Yeah, kind of outline for people that don't quite know exactly what.
So everything east of the Cascades was going to go into a draw. There was going to be group units where, you know, obviously there's low percentage of harvest and low popularity, but, you know, we were going to, there was going to be a 1,600. There was going to be 1,600 hunters that were going to be cut out of the draw, according to their numbers, and the numbers were given
based on what they allocate for actual tags versus general tags.
And then they were, yeah, exactly, compared to what they have now for their harvest reports that were reported for use of the units, and then all non-residents were going to go to 5%. So 5% of those tags were going to go to non-residents, right? So there you are. And Nick said that we had 450 non-residents that hunt, and you know, there's no reason to argue that, but it just seems like we have more non-residents that participate in Oregon's archery season than that. But you know, far be it from me to ever argue statistics. I'm avoiding statistics. So you know, far be it from me to argue that. But you know, that said, you know, and I brought this up to both Kevin Blakely. You know, he's deputy director of big game, and then Nick's heading this process up. I go, you guys are here today. I go, you may not be here tomorrow. You may not be here. You may be here 4 or 5 years, but then you're gone. And then who replaces you? And then all of a sudden, oh well, we have wolves, we have cougar, we have a problem, you know, with elk populations. So who's the first to cut? We're going to cut bow hunters. You know, so maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, oh, we've got a super pack of wolves that moved in here. Well, we're going to cut all these bow hunters. Well, we can't have bow hunters in this unit. It never comes with a promotion. It comes with a deprivation.
And it's never going to come back to what it was like, you know, as
yeah,
far
no,
as
it never returns, right?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden it becomes the Ponzi scheme of the point race, right? So everybody, you know, oh, point creep, and we're into this, and then pretty soon nobody's hunting, right?
Right.
And so now we've lost our promotion of everything, and we don't have any sound science, you know, to support this.
Right.
When you get into, you know, basic tag allocate, you know, or harvest, you know, equitability, sure, we have a decent amount of harvest in the units that are brushy, like Starkey, Ukiah, and Heppner, and Desolation.
Bow hunters do.
Bow hunters do.
You know, like
but we're
12, 15% success? Or?
No, it's higher than that.
Okay.
It's higher than that. Oh yeah. We killed a fair amount of bulls in Starkey last year, and I think overall, I think it was pushing. Well, it's in this report here. Again, far be it from me to remember statistics. I don't want to get spanked on statistics, but I think it was pushing, you know, close to, you know, 25 or 30%.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there was quite a few bulls killed in some of those target units that they're wanting to reduce tags on. But why? you know, rifle hunters, you know, are super successful in open units. I mean, if you take, there again, let's go back to Steens. There's very few deer killed by archery hunters and Steens, but rifle hunters, pretty good success rate.
Pretty good.
Yeah, well, you can see the animals. It's open country, you know, so it's the obvious. But where we have brush, archery hunters have to get close. I mean, 25, 30, 40 yards. I mean, still, we can do anything we want to with technology with these bows, and we can make them smooth, quiet, more accurate, and everything. But you can step over there, and there's a 40-yard lane right there. That you're never going to make 40 yards a close shot. 40 yards is always going to be 40 yards, right? And most effective range for most bow hunters is 40 yards and under. 50 yards is a long shot.
Yes, it is.
I mean, a lot can take place from the time you cut that arrow loose to the time it gets to 50 yards, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's seen that that's bow hunted for 25 or 30 years. You've seen that. It's unavoidable. And so, you know, really every hunter has a situational ethics and then he has this effective range. You know, every bow hunter.
Sure.
Every rifle hunter has that same thing. You know, but rifle hunting, obviously, my dad, you know, he grew up in the old days, that 4-power scope. He thought 200 yards was a long ways to shoot, right?
It was.
Yeah, but that's changed with technology. But no matter what we do with a stick and a string here, no matter what we do, if you physically draw this bow and you physically aim it, you know, no matter what we make an arrow out of or whatever we make, you know, whatever we do with these bows,
right.
You know, 40, 50 yards is always going to be a long shot. Yeah. You're not going to change that. Yeah. And so we need a brushy unit to be successful in. You know, it's no different than when you guys cut your teeth on all the coast stuff, right?
Stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you go, I know you've hunted Colorado, you go to those Colorado timber zones, you have good success, you know, calling those bulls in because you're into this effective range, right?
You can't see.
We actually
30 yards.
sometimes look for that kind of stuff.
And I've watched all your videos, it's effective range stuff, just like your coast stuff, and you look for that. I mean, you start, there's lots of elk in open country.
Yeah.
That's a tough deal,
Still
right?
gotta kill 'em.
Yeah.
Still got to kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at Eastern Oregon, yeah, we have a lot of people that have figured out, yeah, if we have a heavy timber conifer zone, you know, we can be successful archery hunting because we can get close to game. It's simple, right? Sure. And so that's why our success rate is good in those areas. But equitability across the whole spectrum of things, I mean, if you go to Chestnimis, I mean, Chestnimis is a fairly open unit. There's some good success there for archery, but it's nowhere near as high as the brushier units.
Really?
You know, so
makes sense.
Makes sense, 100% sense. I mean, the more open, more prairie you have, you know, the more elk you have in the prairie, you know, more eyes on you, the less success. You know, you get in a heavy timber zone, you know, so that's what we've got.
And it all evens each other out, right? I mean,
well, so we're still, you know, the rifle harvest is still, so equitability on harvest is still rifle here and archery here. Right. You know, but, you know, we've raised some outbounds. But the idea is, my idea is like, we're supposed to be successful. I mean, no, you know, this is, and Mark Laphart was a part of this meeting. He's Commissioner Mark Laphart, and he was there, and he sat on some fish committees, right? And he said, you guys are nowhere near as hardcore as any of the fishermen. He goes, they are hardcore. He goes, they almost, you know, they're ready for blood when they come to these meetings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he goes, because, and I got to thinking about that. Fishermen don't go fishing to float around on a lake and not catch anything, right?
Yeah.
Or you don't float down a river not to catch anything, right? You're there to catch fish, right? And even fly fishermen, they're there to catch fish. They may release them,
right?
But you know,
Still
most of your hardcore steelhead and salmon guys, they want to eat a fish occasionally, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about the resource, about catching fish. It's like there's whoever's sitting behind the oars, you know, that's oaring that boat all day has done a lot of work. You know, you want to produce.
Right.
It's about production. And you know, if you don't have fish, everybody's pissed.
Doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good.
Yeah.
But you know, us as archery hunters, we're pretty good with going out and enjoying the outdoors, the experience, right? And so for archery hunters, if you switch over to archery, man, I called in this bull, I didn't get it. I mean, you have a lifelong experience and maybe not kill something because, oh my gosh, you had the biggest buck step up and he winded you and he took off before you could even get arrow loaded. How many times have I heard that over the years? Or, man, I was at full draw and this bull hung up and he was behind this tree and I held it and held it and held it and he took off and I let up and I hear something bark and I turn around and a bull's running out right behind me. And I didn't kill anything, but it was just the most incredible experience ever. How many times have I've heard that? Thousands of times over the years. You get that through the experience in the outdoors. You get that through being out there, the opportunity to be there where, you know, yeah, we ultimately want to be successful.
Sure.
every time. But we need to create opportunity. So that's always, you know, I'm proud of Oregon Fish and Wildlife that we have the diversity in this state. And they've made a lot of opportunity for us. And so, you know, you can't fault us as being stakeholder groups representing our membership for trying to defend it every way we can. I mean, we don't want to lose that. And like I say, when we go into a special draw status, we lose. I mean, I gave you some numbers, Trent, there to look at.
Yeah, no, this is.
And give me the deer numbers there from 1970 to 1975.
So these are hunter numbers by species. So mule deer. And so when they went to a draw, right, it was from 70 to 75. In 1970, it was 180,000, just over 180,000.
Right.
Hunters in 1975, it was 112.
112.
Yeah.
That's a substantial lot.
Huge.
And that was my dad.
60,000.
That was my dad. I'm like, Dad, we need to go to Steen's. No, it's a draw. I ain't messing with filling out an application. I ain't doing it. I ain't going. And I'm like, yeah, you are. I'm filling it out for you.
Yeah.
And I did. And I put in for it. But, you know, he was done with it at that point. You know, he wasn't into regulation.
It's another barrier to entry.
It's another barrier to entry. So when you go to a special draw application, you know, we're just going to lose there. You're going to lose and it may not be a giant, but you're going to lose a percentage.
That's a pretty good percentage.
And you know, we want, you know, recruitment enhancement. You know, right? We want to recruit hunters. Sure. We don't, and we can. I've always said, and this applies to your guys' country because you grew up down there. And there was a couple years when I was a kid, I got taken down there and my eyes opened on a rifle hunt in Tioga.
Oh
okay,
boy.
Yeah, oh boy. And I was
we're talking.
And so I always gave the analogy: you could put 10 bow hunters on a landing, and you could have across the canyon over there, you know, 500-600 yards away, you could have 30 bulls and, you know, about 100 cows. And that landing's not going to be crowded, right? But if you have 3 rifle hunters on that landing, and you only have a couple bulls over, it's going to get crowded in a hurry, isn't it?
In a fast way.
And if you had 10 rifle hunters on that landing, it's going to be really crowded, really quick, right? So so that's just my analogy on, you can put a lot of bow hunters in an area, and they're not going to have a substantial effect. Immediate effect. We got to be smart. We got to call. We got to sit in tree stands. We got to sit in ground blinds. We got to be patient. We need equity time of field, because if you give us just a short time in the field, we're not going to get it done. You know, we have to be there to figure it out, and then it takes years to figure out. Okay, I have to do this and this. I have to take all these primary steps, preseason, you know, and during season, and then I need time for this to all materialize so I can be successful for that one opportunity. To where
hopefully
for
that one opportunity.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, I'm good with it because I was out there, I had the opportunity, it challenged me, and I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, that's where, you know, we can be thankful that we live in Oregon and we have tremendous opportunity.
We do.
And we have our draw hunts. I mean, it's not like this is just a free-for-all for the whole state. I mean, oh my gosh, I mean, our big ones, you know, Sled Springs, Chesnimis, you know, Walla Walla, Mount Emily, Winnehaw. Okay, right there's our dream hunts. Yeah, everybody, my son's got Winnehaw this year. I'm pumped about going over there and spending some time with him. He's pretty pumped. I think he's over there right now. It's his 4th trip.
I tried Mount Emily, and that didn't work with 17 points.
Yeah, you didn't draw. You didn't draw.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's just what it is.
It is what it is for points.
You got the point creep, so next year it's like, okay, 18 points. Is that going to maybe get it? Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah. So our meeting went well. You know, we you know, all groups, you know, weighed in on it, you know, and you know, we're hopeful for an outcome. And you know, guys are like, how can I get involved? How can I make a change? How can I?
That's actually great. Yeah.
And Mark, you know, Labhart, you know, our commissioner, you know, he encourages. He goes, you guys need to inform your membership that you can go right on Oregon Fish and Wildlife's website, right under commission. You click on commission, it goes right down, and there's your commission link. And everybody needs to write, you know, regardless of what your opinion, you need to go in and you need to weigh in on it.
It's our way to vote.
It's our way to vote. Yeah.
It's our voice.
It's our voice.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And you know, really, we have an awesome resource. You know, and we have the resource. You know, it's not like, if archery hunters were going out there and, we were just killing all the deer and killing all the elk, and we were a management by scientific basis for us being reduced, that's great. We're the first ones to agree that, hey, if there's some way that we are hurting our resource, we are the first ones as conservationists to acknowledge that and say, yeah, we're going to take a step back, we need to do that. But no, we need to go the other direction. We need to take the tools of management that ODFW has. We need to do predator removal. We need to do habitat enhancement. We do everything we can. We need to close roads. Sure, roads are, for a lot of, people, roads can be a real resource, to get them into the country. But as far as bow hunting, so you've already chose a primitive weapon. I think more than ever we need to encourage more road closures for bow hunters. We're already a difficult group to harvest things. You didn't step into this group because, hey, I'm just going to go, pull up and shoot everything, with a bow. Right. I'm already in the primitive weapons category. We need to encourage road closures. We need to do everything we can to increase the resource, and make it a difficult resource and make it available to recruit people. Everybody that walks in that's new, hey, I want to try bow hunting, I want to get into this, well, great, we've got all this opportunity, let's jump in. We have 2 seasons, you have a month of, early season, you have a month if you jump into deer, and if you draw a late season cow, you can hunt a couple weeks in late season, cow hunts. I mean, we have all this opportunity, jump into it, take advantage of it.
So on these proposals, is it management objectives that they're trying to, I guess I'm trying to understand the thought process or science behind some of the proposals. Is there been anything pointed out to you that's really been definitive of why the proposal outside of pressure?
Outside of overcrowding, pressure, portability of tags, elk moving onto private because of pressure. And, that's arguable. I think a lot, and if you think about the way our units are laid out and the way our Forest Service grounds laid out, elk, naturally will move into private. Well, a lot of it, and I'm pro cattle, ranching, 100%. Yeah. But it's undeniable that everybody's been to the North Side unit, everybody's been to Desolation, everybody's been to most of these units. We have a lot of grazing, and it's pummel dust, right?
Overgrazing.
And us being elk hunters, we know that elk don't enjoy cattle, right? They'll live with them sometimes, but a lot of times they'll move them right out of the unit. Sure. So everybody moves their cattle to the high ground during the summer months, and the elk move to the ranches. And I mean, this year we're going to have over the counter starting August 1st. We have 4,000 cow tags for private property in Starkey, in Ukiah, in all the neighboring private property areas, even in the Mount Emily unit, we have private property tags that are going to be pretty much over the counter, and 4,000 tags is pretty much unlimited. It's their only elk opportunity, but you can go buy that, and you can contact a private property owner. You may have to pay a trespass fee. They may let you hunt for free. It's that's private property owner's discretion, but you can go in there and shoot a cow August 1st, and it goes all the way to November 30th. Okay, that's a pretty broad season right there to kill elk on private ground. And, Oregon Fish and Wildlife's idea is it's going to push the elk off of private back up onto the public. But my argument would be, it's not, we're Johnny come lately, when we get there. The cattle have already been there, all summer. And so a lot of your movement, in my opinion, is not, the hunting community. Sure, I mean, hunters are going to move elk around. But the idea, during the rut, you get elk going every direction. And I mean, they're going to move off. And then the private ranches are hunting too. I mean, Opal Buell Ranch, a friend of mine, Casey Hawker, they try to take great pains to make sure that they don't move their elk off of their private. Yeah. And so, they're still moving elk around regardless. I mean, they're moving elk off of their private back up on the public, and so there's a lot of elk movement. It's not that we're just running all the elk out of the, and then areas like Desolation. I mean, you've got the North Fork of the John Day Wilderness there. I mean, those elk are there. Yeah. You're not going to move them around in that brush. You know, that's a unit you might move them from one ridge to another, then they're going to be back. You know, so there's elk just, and there's elk just moving in there.
Right.
You know, and sure, there's hunter pressure, but that is a very thick unit. So
from your sentiment, do you think that ODF&W is open to the public? Like they're encouraging that input and
so
like
I
open
think
mind on it, or
I would hope.
Yeah.
I would hope. I wasn't, you know, I didn't come out of that meeting with a real rosy feeling that you know, as stakeholder groups that we're the final say by any means. You know, they heard us. You know, Commissioner Laphart, you know, he heard us. You know, we made a strong case. You know, we want opportunity. You know, we don't want to see our opportunity go away with the only group that is really growing in hunting. We don't want to see that, no way, shape, or form. And so, you know, that's pretty. We made that case pretty crystal clear. As far as, you know, the hunting community weighing in, yeah, I mean, the bow hunting community needs to weigh in more than ever on this. You know, through that, you know, link on the commission's website. Okay. You know, that's paramount right now. To sign up for, you know, we're probably going to have another Zoom meeting for a commission meeting, and I think what we
September 13th.
13th is the commission meeting. I'm going to be in Wyoming. I have a very good tag, you know, for Wyoming that I've waited 9 years to draw, and so one of our other representatives will probably give the 3.5. You know, you get 3 minutes. You get 3 minutes to weigh in, and basically it just gives you time to say, you know, we're not at all for this, you know, any way, shape, or form. We're for promoting, you know, opportunity for you know, the future of hunting, the future of bow hunting. You know, it's important. You know, if guys don't drive rifle tag, you know, if you didn't draw your rifle side and, you know, you didn't have a chance to, you know, draw an archery tag, I mean, and then here comes Western Oregon, right? And you guys well know, and you guys can weigh in on this better than anything, you know, fire danger between, you know, like 2015 and 2018.
3 years.
3 years. You wouldn't have bow hunted if you wouldn't have had a tag. Like if that tag draw would have been in place, then you wouldn't have had a tag for east side of the Cascades. The Cascade Mountains were on fire, terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, just
south was on fire. Everywhere was on fire.
Everywhere was on fire.
Yeah,
you had to travel to Eastern Oregon, and so some of the data that they collected was from those years, because guys had to go from from the Coast Range. You know, the Cascades, past that, you can't hunt that. Keep going. You got to hunt Eastern Oregon. So yeah, we probably had some crowding in those years. Guys wanted to hunt. I mean, Coos Bay is, you know, Roseburg. I mean, you guys got hubs of bow hunters in those areas. I mean, great bunch of bow hunters in all those areas. You know, they want to travel. You know, the guys from Eugene, Portland. You know, they wanted. You know, they had to travel to another area. And I know if we would have had this tag draw, you know, situation for archery in my, you know, hunting lifetime for archery, there probably would have been 10 years I wouldn't have bow hunted at all, because I can remember so many years that, you know, Murders Creek was all closed down. The whole bloody thing was on fire. If I'd had a Murders Creek tag, guess what? I wasn't bow hunting that year. If Desolation, oh my gosh, I mean, there's been so many fires in there. 395 closed, every access closed, no access. And I mean, that's not Oregon Fish and Wildlife making that decision. No, that's U.S. Forest Service making that decision. They could care less if there's a portion of that unit that's not on fire and you want to hunt it. You're not hunting it. No. It's a $2,300 fine if you cross that line. Yeah. You know, so, you know, that's something that bow hunters deal with in Oregon is fire danger.
Due to September and
dates, even some of the early season, you know, our opening October, we've had some Octobers where rifle hunters had to deal with it. Yeah. You know, so they can actually be sympathetic with us in what we're dealing with in August and September, because we're on fire. Oh yeah. I mean, you have to have able to be, you know, portability. You have to be able to move, because I want, you know, Beulah last year was on fire. Yeah. You know, and you know, a whole large portion of that unit was closed. Forest Service just goes to every arterial chink right there. They got a guy sitting right there. They got the roadblocks right there. You're not entering. Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think that there is a compromise of from what they propose to what that would mediate both? Or?
So we offered some compromises, but I don't think they're going to get bid on. You know. You know, so, and I don't even want to go into them, you know, you know, there again, you know, standing behind this counter for 32 years, I've heard a lot of, you know, really good management, you know, ideas, and I gave just a couple of them, and Robert Moreland, you know, gave one, I gave one, you know, with Traditional Archers of Oregon, and you know, so we've got some great ideas, you know, but you know, it was a good meeting, and I aired some other stuff out, you know, that we talked about earlier, like spring bear, for instance. I mean, you know, and to just throw that one out there, I mean, there is no reason in the world why we shouldn't have statewide, unlimited youth bear tags. No, youth. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Because there is no reason why every kid in this state shouldn't be able to hunt. Northeastern Oregon, Eastern Oregon, and anywhere southwest or anywhere in the coast for spring bear, unlimited tags, because we have the resource. Everybody that steps in the woods right now knows that we have an overpopulation of bear. And it's a resource that we have. It's a big game resource. It's a fantastic table fare. You can that. You do the old home canning process. That bear meat is outstanding. And there's nothing like taking a kid bear hunting. I mean, their eyes are giant. I mean, it's a bear. It has an element of danger. I always said if bear had antlers, it'd be like the most perfect animal. You know, be the best animal ever. Because there's an element of danger. You know, they're a bear. I mean, I remember the first time I took my son, you know, spring bear hunting. We went to Sled Springs, Chesnimis, and pulled up, and I mean, the first time he looked through the spot and scope and saw a cinnamon bear on a hillside, I mean, his eyes were as big as saucers. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a bear, right? It's a bear. And it aligns right with that recruitment. What was a great way to recruit kids. And so and that proposal was one of the first ones in recruitment enhancement, and it's not there. It's not there. It's not there. And it could be, and it should be. And it's a crime above all. I think it's a crime, you know, that we're not utilizing that resource, because every kid, and if we're worried about kids killing too many bears, we got to check them in. Let's throw a quota on them.
There you go.
Let's throw a quota on them. 24-hour closure on a quota.
They're doing check-ins anyway.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Easy one. Yeah. So with the ability of technology, we can do some questions. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Take some questions. Cody, are you good with on your end?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, okay. I mean, the biggest thing was like the ability to comment, and after this video gets up, we'll put the link in the description where you guys can click on and put your words in, get your voice heard by the commission on this. I think that's a big factor. And
right. You know, we have a freshman crew of commissioners. Okay. Right, and so and then there's more commissioners that are going to be appointed here shortly. Okay. You know, and you know, I'm encouraged with our new group of commissioners. I think they're concerned, and I think that, you know, I think the hunting community can go a long way, you know, to help them,
their voice,
and kind of help them, you know, understand where we're coming from and where our passions are. I think it's super important that, you know, when you write letters and you voice that, you know, that comes out. I mean, remember, you're not speaking to another hunter when you're writing to the commission. And Mark Laphart is a sportsman, you know, and we may have some more on there, but, you know, these are people that are on there, and they're like, you know, they're supposed to be like, you know, like Lady Justice. She has a blindfold, and she weighs what staff brings. Staff brings the proposals, and then they look at the hunting community, and they look at the community as a whole, everybody that's testifying, and they look at them and they're like, you know, we want to make sure that we have conservation, and we want to make sure that we have, you know, basically opportunity, you know, for us, you know, because we're paying for the resource. You know, we drive the machine. You know, we want to make sure that we got fuel for the fire, basically.
No, it was a good point. Like the LWCF, the Land Water Conservation Fund, just got passed yesterday, and it was, I think, a big driver from people actually taking action, being involved, hearing their voice. So.
Yeah, it's time. It's time. If you've never taken action, I mean, even if it's just a few lines, hey, I love to bow hunt. I love to see the game. You know, I want to be out there. I don't want to have my opportunity stifled. I don't want to miss a year. Life is short. I mean, 1 year, I always said, you know, guys will come in and they go, oh, I didn't hunt last year. I'm like, you know, buddy, there's only so many Septembers in one man's lifetime. I mean, there's only so, and you miss one, you never get it back. You're not going to get it back. And I mean, you know, Lord lets you know real quick that, hey, life's short. I mean, you know, we're only here for a period of time. And then what more than what I want, we're working for passing it down. I mean, I've got 3 grandkids and I've got a son, and I've got a bunch of daughters that hunt, and I want to be able to pass them on something, one, a resource. I want to make sure that predators aren't eating all our, harvestable, big game, deer and elk. I want to make sure that doesn't happen. And, we're losing that battle right now, gentlemen. I mean, we're losing that battle big time. Yeah. And then more than that, I want to make sure that they have opportunity on all of them, on all game species, whether it's cougar, bear, deer, or elk, turkeys, whatever. I want to make sure so that's what we need to work for.
The opportunities that you've had.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So questions, what do we got here?
To start off, what can a new bow hunter in Oregon do as far as having our voice heard, and how can we take action?
Yeah, so
we've covered
the question
that.
we covered is just about the commission link. Like I said, we'll put the link in the description after this
Yeah,
video
the commission needs to hear from you.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions about wolves in Oregon.
Oh boy.
What's going to happen with that?
Oh boy.
We're going to get Wayne started on this one.
So I was involved in a wolf symposium that I was invited to in 2006 in Columbus, Ohio, and Dan Ash, he was Obama's appointee for Wildlife Services at the time, and he had a map, and in his presentation, and their mission statement. Now this is federal Fish and Wildlife. Everybody, you got to understand that Oregon Fish and Wildlife is our state organization, right? It's our state Department of Oregon Fish and Wildlife. Federal Fish and Wildlife has a mission statement. It's to restore, game populations and game animals wherever it's possible.
Gotcha.
So the wolf reintroduction, it was his subject. It was Dan's subject, and he came in, and there was Pete Shepley was in the meeting. David Allen was president of Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. He was in the meeting. He sat right next to me. And he had a map up, and he had all these pins all over this map, and they were wolf reintroduction areas. We had pins all over Oregon. And I raised my hand after his presentation, and I said, Dan, you got pins all over Oregon. And his mission statement, his exact words were, we're aggressively reintroducing wolves wherever there's wolf habitat, all over the western half of the United States. And he had pins all over Oregon, and I raised my hand, and I said, Dan, you got pins in Oregon. I go, is that, what is that packs, or is that, those are reintroduction areas. And he had them all over Oregon. And he had all over the western half of the United States. This was in 2006. Yeah, this was in 2006.
Wow.
And so, Federal Fish and Wildlife has their own agenda.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with Oregon Fish and Wildlife. We have a wolf plan. And that wolf plan passed this last year. And if you watched any of the meetings, and you can go, and if you want to watch any of the meetings, you can go on, and the wolf plan was presented by staff, and it's very extensive, and has a lot of, even to try to start to understand it, it has a lot of facets to it. And but basically, if you meet delisting criteria, which we do, which Kurt Melcher, testified that, we're ready for delisting. We met the criteria. And Kate Brown said, we're not going to delist wolves. So we have a conflict between departments there, which was kind of interesting. But, I've said this over and over. I watched all the testimony. I actually testified the day before on game issues, but I didn't go back up there the next day for the wolf thing, because I can't remember, they had hundreds of people signed up for testimony. I can't remember how many they got to, but the argument's always going to be, when it comes from the left, so to speak, which is not the hunting community. When the argument comes for the wolves from the left, it's always going to be the same. And I've read this throughout all they don't want outdoor recreation where there's wolves in the wild. So no camping, no fishing, no backpack. They don't want cattle ranching wherever there's wolf,
So they want this
reintroduction area. They don't want hunting in those areas, no hunting where there's wolves and then they're never going to okay any kind of removal, whether it's a livestock deprivation, or anything. They don't see the left, so to speak, when they come and testify, and it was 90% of the testimony, and you can go on YouTube and you can watch all of it, and it's just the same over and over and over. And it doesn't matter whether we have 175 wolves confirmed in Oregon, 275 wolves, or 2,700 wolves confirmed in Oregon, or 5,000 wolves confirmed in Oregon. The argument's never going to change. It's going to be the same. It's never going to change. that argument is going to be, you're not going to kill a wolf, you're not going to remove a wolf because he's killing livestock, you're not going to hunt a wolf, and then you're definitely going to, managing wolves is out of the question.
You're not going around it.
You're not going around it. Wolves need to dominate the landscape and basically take over. And if you look at Yellowstone, for example, they've closed every migration hunt out of Yellowstone for elk. The population has just been stifled.
So basically,
and then the wolf population went up, and then the wolves actually started killing themselves and came down. And now you have buffalo, very few elk, and very few of anything else. And the propaganda is always there. Oh, it's we have riparian zones, and we have songbirds, and we have beaver in the creeks, and the elk aren't just destroying the riparian zones and everything. But yeah, and I've never thought that was an issue beforehand.
Right.
Yeah, before wolves were reintroduced. I mean, that's just all of a sudden a new issue. So, and then this is the thing. The gray wolf was exterminated out of the lower 48. I mean, just plain and simple.
Yeah.
And the gene pool that we have for wolves comes from Canada, Northern Territories. So you take, and anybody that understands, and this is easy, canine bloodlines. You have a poodle, you have a German short hair, you have a Doberman Pinscher, you have a German Shepherd. You have different bloodlines, you have a lab, you have different bloodlines. So what's stronger than a canine bloodline? I own a German short hair. I could not beat the bird out of her. When she was a little tiny puppy, you'd take her out and put her on the lawn, to go potty, and there were a little Tweety bird, plunk! And I mean, she's pointing at that, and she's this big.
Yeah.
It's in the blood. And canine bloodlines, there's nothing stronger than a bloodline in a canine. So you take a wolf, and let's say creation, by my estimate, and this is a lot of argument, but biblically I believe that creation is maybe 7,000 or 8,000 years old. You take a wolf that's been in the Northern Territories for 4,000 or 5,000 years, and it's done nothing but chase, kill caribou, as many as they can, dig a hole in a muskeg and cache them, eat every 7th one, that they cache. In the wintertime, they go back, smell them out, dig them out, pull them out. They're preserved. They've been stuffed in the muskeg, and they eat on them.
Right.
And that's what they've done for all these years, right? And they kill as many as they can. You trap that wolf up there. You bring it down to lower 48, and then everybody's puzzled. Like, there was a website that you could go to. It's probably still up. It was Save Our Elk Idaho. And you could go to that website, and they had nothing but documentation where they'd be on a snow machine, and they'd get on a pack of wolves. The wolves would run like 80 or 100 head of elk. So they killed every one of them. And some of them would just be maimed, or the elk could still be alive, but it'd just be sitting there. So you can't blame the wolf for that. See, that's where the whole wolf hating thing I don't understand, because it's not the wolf's fault.
No.
He's doing what his bloodline tells him to do. He's not chasing caribou anymore. He's chasing elk in the lower 48. They come into a pasture of sheep and they kill 60 sheep. It's what they do. It's what they're bred to do. It's what they've done for 5,000 years. You don't change that. So you got to understand, when it comes to the wolf argument, you have to understand canine bloodlines. And anybody that's a dog owner understands that, without a doubt. And so you bring that wolf down here, and that was something that Dan said. He goes, in his wolf symposium, because we were asking questions, and it's like, one of the major questions is, why don't the wolves eat what they kill, or why do they sport kill, or why do they chase it? There's a lot of terms for it. Yeah. And he's like, well, we're puzzled about that. And he raised pointing labs. And I had a good opportunity to talk to him after the meeting for quite a while. And I said, how long did it take him to develop a pointing lab? And he goes, oh, well, yeah, a long time. And, we got all this. And then he's explaining all of it. Right. And I go, so that's in the blood. So, and I explained to him my whole theory on, when this wolf lives in this area and does nothing but chase caribou for all this time, it's in the blood. You bring them down here, you turn them loose, they propagate. This is what they do. They kill.
Super killer.
Super killer, right. Super pack, super killer, super kill everything. It's what they do. It's not their fault. I mean, because of political push of this attitude that we needed to bring these wolves down here, and they're the missing link, it's all going to be better. It's not the wolf we had here. Right. It's not the wolf we had here in history. And, if you want to go into it more in depth, Val Geist he's a zoologist, biologist, Calgary, Alberta, is where he lives. He is the wolf guy. He has done more seminars. You can learn more from that guy than everything. And you get into the Hydidus portion of it, where the Hydidus tapeworm, he's big on that. And that's all the stuff you see on social media, where there's all these cysts in deer and elk and livestock, and then people get it and they die from it and everything. The wolf's carrier of it. Ron Anglin came up to me. I think we had they did an administrative removal on wolves a few years back, and the wolves that they took out of northeastern Oregon, they're a carrier of it, and they had it. The ones that they removed, they tested them and they had
Really?
it. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So anyway, and that thing, when you get into that's a whole nother subject, and it can be rough for not only big game, for pets, for livestock, for humans.
Yeah.
Because you catch it, you contact it, it does the same thing to you. It grows cysts all over your vital organs, and you're dead in 7 to 9 months unless they catch it early. And I think there's a cure for it if they catch it early, but there's been a lot of people die from it, especially in Idaho. So all that, there's your answer on wolves. Wolves is a tough deal. Are we ever going to manage them in Oregon? So I will just say this: hunting is not management. My dad was a trapper. I grew up trapping in a trapping household, and they had an old saying. All your old trappers had an old saying: you got a male and a female predator on the landscape. In 4 to 5 years, you better figure out how to kill as many of them as you can, as often as you can, as quick as you can, because without that, they're going to overpopulate, and you're going to have a terrible problem. So that's coming from an old school management,
Right.
Perspective. Are we ever going to have management on coyotes? Well, unless they're worth $200 or $300 or $400, no. I mean, probably not.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
All right, next question. Is there any chance to stop the east side drop proposal, or is it likely a done deal?
I would like to think yes. I'm just going to leave it at that. Your involvement's going to be important. The level of involvement that you give the commission is going to make a big difference on that. It doesn't hurt to contact staff. It doesn't hurt to call your local biologist. It probably doesn't hurt to call the director's office. Sorry, Kurt, I'll just have to throw you under the bus there, but Kurt Melcher's a good man. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. I like Kurt. He's been a good man for Oregon Fish and Wildlife. He's your director. He's our guy. He steers the ship. They need to hear from everybody. They need to hear how passionate you are about the loss of opportunity. I wouldn't like to think it's a done deal.
Okay.
Next question. Is the proposal to create individual draw units for every unit, or will it be more regional, like the South Blue Spring Bear tag or the High Deer Desert Muzzleloader tag?
So, I've got the units here, and rather than go over them, so your major popular units, which everybody can probably guess, Trent, why don't let me stumble through those with my glasses. Just so there's your block units right there. The rest of them are individual. So your block units are.
The question is
Gotcha.
Is this going to be a singular unit or a group unit
And a lot of the popular units are going to be groups, but the block units that they have suggested are just right there.
Right. So you're going to have Keno, Klamath Falls, Sprague, Upper Deschutes, Paulina, Metolius, Warner, Interstate, Silver Lake, and Fort Rock in a group.
In a group.
And then your next group's going to be South Malheur River, Oahe, Whitehorse, Steens, Beatty's Butte, Juniper, and Wagon Tire.
Low elk population.
Low elk population. That's on the elk side.
And then after that, it's individual.
Yep. After that, it's individual.
That's individual.
Yep. So that'll answer that question.
What are we going to do about point creep? It's a big question.
It's a big question.
Yeah. So the question was, what are we going to do about point creep?
So,
I think all the states basically, aside from Idaho, is the only one.
Yeah, you're going to deal with that. Yeah, Idaho, New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico.
New Mexico's
lottery. So, there's, once you start a point system, it's going to work for a period of time, and then it becomes a Ponzi scheme, right? It's just plain and simple.
Sure.
So guys my age that have already drawn out and are in the pool again, I'm up to 10 points. I drew an 09 for Winnehaw. And
okay.
I think I got 11 points now. I didn't draw this year, so I'm back up to 11 points, right?
Yeah.
And so, where's 11 points do? Yeah, I could draw some stuff. I could. But if you want, the big three, 17 didn't draw Mount Emily. Maybe Walla Walla.
Though is there is that whole. I mean, you're at Sled Springs 7, 6, 7, and then your next jump is Mount Emily, Walla Walla at.
So if you're looking at
17.
And then if you look at the whole picture,
there's nothing in between.
So there's rifle hunts, So I was informed that I think Starkey takes 5 points for rifle side.
Okay.
So you can rotate in and out of there probably quicker than you can rotate for the archery draws. So the archery draws are much harder.
Yep.
So I had a proposal for that, and so Winnehaw, Walla Walla, and Mount Emily and Sled Springs is obviously healthy. Obviously healthy for bull-cow ratios, obviously healthy with bulls. You know, my suggestion was like a year jubilee. So you would need, and I think there was a few years back we discussed it. You know, all of a sudden one year Arizona did it where they just like doubled their tags, but I don't think they notified the drawing committee. They didn't inform anybody. They just did it. But I think it would be important to inform everybody. But if you did a year jubilee, like, okay, we've got 40 tags, I think, for Winnahaw for archery, and you know, and 40 tags for rifle and so on. So what you could do, you know, if you had the management resource, you could double those tags, but you'd make everybody aware of it. So guys could drop in, you know, luck of the draw would be higher, everything would be higher, but you'd have 1 year, and if you did it every 5, it would clean the system. It would help clean the system. It may not clean the system totally, but it would pull down.
It wouldn't eliminate point creep, but
it would pull it down. And if you had the management resource to do it, why not do it?
Right.
To meet objectives in the unit.
To meet objectives.
And tell people about it, because obviously if
you
I'm in for it and I have
you're going to
18,
be pissed. If you just think you're going to go in there and you're not going to see anybody and it's just going to, no, you're going to have double the amount of people in there.
Sure.
But still not a lot of people.
Still gonna be a
I mean, you spread 80 people over, you know, Winnahaw, you may still not see anybody, right? You know, and then there's going to be guys that are going to kill out the first week, the second week. Some guys are just going to go in, there's a 5-point, they're going to call it in, they're going to kill it. So you're losing guys all along in those high successor units. So by the last 2 weeks, you may only have 30 guys or 40 guys left there. So it was always my idea, you know, and there again, it came through that front door. Believe me, these, you know, one time I went to one of the commission meetings and I wasn't saying much, and they asked me, Wayne, what, you haven't said much, and I go, just ask me, I got all the answers. And I didn't mean to sound like just super arrogant, but I realized when I said it, I was like, oh, it's like the most arrogant thing I could say, right? That didn't come out right, guys, I'm sorry. But no, I mean, all the years that I've stood there, 32 years, I you know, asked me a management question that I've heard it. I mean, from every side. I've heard, you know, everything. I've got modifications of choose your weapon, you know, on this. I've got modifications of traditional archery, you know, and so I've got every kind of modification for this that there is. I mean, you know, we've got like 4 or 5 different proposals just for this, you know, so yeah, but they're not even worth airing because, you know, we need the immediate battle. I mean, we're not going to go back and form some different weapon. We're on the battlefield right now. We need to address this right now.
Question is, will West Oregon still be general season to hunt if we don't draw in the east?
It will.
Yeah.
As present.
The question was, will Western Oregon still be general as of right now?
As of right now.
This year, yes, it will.
But there again, there's my fear. You know, all of a sudden Western Oregon, you know, the Coast Range is crowded, you know, guys couldn't hunt over there. You know, we got another couple thousand guys hunting over here. You got the 1,600 they cut, and then they got, you know, the guys that just didn't want to get involved with it. Well, we're just going to hunt the Cascades, or we're going to hunt the coast. And, you know, now, so for example, Weyerhaeuser permits for Windling last year took a week and a half to sell the permits. For the motorized permit, took a week and a half. Sold out in 12 minutes.
This year?
This year. Sold out in 12
Powers sold
minutes.
out for the Powers Weyerhaeuser farm, it sold out fast.
Yeah. Same.
So there you go. You got a good product. People want to buy that product, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goes
And
back
people
to
that have hunted that have found it's a quality hunting experience. It polices itself. They get to drive in there. You get to cut a cord of wood. You know, it's a great hunting experience. They're not just shooting every, you know, spike and doe on weekends anymore. I mean, this is a great hunting experience. So, you know, there you go. So my fear is if this goes, oh, well, we've got all this overcrowding, and, you know, no matter what the biology is, we did without biology here, we didn't have sound science for this one, well, we're going to throw this in.
It's just
It's just
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it's a Pandora's box at that point, and then there again we're losing opportunity, and all the way down the road, looking into the future. I don't want that. No way.
Couple more.
Can we extend archery season a week long, assuming it's longer? The East Elk don't even rut till the end of the season.
That's a toughie. You know, we need to be thankful for what we have.
Yeah, I mean that's a month.
It's pretty generous. I mean,
yeah, we need to be thankful for what we have, guys.
30-day season is.
Oh my gosh, love it. We're not Montana.
Right.
It doesn't close on October 15th and open on September 1st.
True.
You know, you can draw a Montana tag. Go to Montana.
I did this year.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, extend it that way. Put in for Montana, draw that. Be thankful for what we have.
Within a month,
be thankful.
You should have an opportunity.
Yeah.
To combat the potential loss of opportunity, is the commission considering making a method to take changes?
The question was, go ahead.
Read that one more
You're better
time.
than
To
that.
combat the potential loss of opportunity, is the commission considering making method of take changes? That's the
Method of take.
Method of take, gotcha.
Oh, gotcha. Could you
So, so to
explain?
combat the opportunity loss, are they willing to change the method of take? So I'm assuming he's talking rifle, archery. I'm not sure on the question, honestly.
Yeah, the method of take is your weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you're carrying in your hand. I mean,
Yeah.
Did
you
they
know,
propose
maybe
any changes for rifle, like the general Eastern Oregon rifle hunts in this? To go, like on the spike tag?
well, they're having to drop tags, especially on mule deer, because I mean, we came out of this, you know, we're deathly low on numbers, so they had to adjust them, and you know, that was part of their justification for, you know, taking the, you know, the deer side away from us. And you know, we're having to adjust all these rifle tags, you know, terribly low. Archery hunters need to take that hit too, you know. So yeah, it was part of it. You know, my argument there is I mean, still, I mean, I go back to the highway deprivation thing. I mean, if we're killing more deer on a highway than archery hunters are killing in a whole season, I'm not having a lot of sympathy for that argument. You know, if it's failed management, if we have failed management, you know, why does the subordinating community, you know, if you have an employee and he fails constantly, he just wants more money all the time, you're going to give him more money. You want better job performance out of that employee, right?
Sure.
Right. If you're a boss, you know, you don't. So we're sitting in this driver's seat. We're the boss here, right? We want better management. We don't want failed management.
Right.
Don't come back and tell us that we have poor nutrition. Don't come back and tell us that we can't do, you know, predator removal. Don't come back and tell us that you have to do the sacrificing. You know, so that'd be like an employee coming, like, I need $35 an hour instead of $16 an hour, and I'm going to sit more.
Right.
I'm going to sit on my butt over here in the corner and text more and do less job performance. No, that doesn't work. I mean, we need performance out of management. So method to take, you know, that's a long ways around that question right there.
Yeah.
Okay, another one. If we are being honest, what was the real motive to go to e-tagging? Is there a change coming to the way data is collected in the field by DFW biologists?
So the question is e-tagging. So
Is there a change in the way data
is there a change in the way that
is collected?
data is collected?
So data's collected, yeah. I mean, they're going to know if you're in the unit that you're punching the tag in. I mean, there's some good stuff in there. I think, you know, and if you're a straight up, I mean, now last year, of course, it was a slow start. I know a guy that, you know, could not validate his tag.
And we've heard of all of them.
Yeah, and there's a lot of understanding.
Winter steelhead fishing. You
Right.
know, it was like right when it came out, we had issues there.
And there's
yeah.
Once it kind of fleshed itself out, though, it was the easiest thing ever for fishing. I would say.
Yeah, and I personally, I feel like it's a good management tool because now we have accurate. I had
Accurate
buddies when
data.
they got phone calls, and it's like, "Yep, I hunted every single day. Nope, I didn't kill a thing." I mean, that when they got.
Oh, I love that.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
because they felt like it was a, you know. So I think this is
this is and you know, everybody doesn't want any more intrusion.
Right.
But let's face it. I mean, we're in a straight up world here. You know, we need to be, you know, we walk in, you know, that narrow path.
We need to be
Everybody,
accountable.
we need to be accountable.
100%.
That was our argument with hunter reporting, mandatory hunter reporting, is we need to be accountable.
Yeah.
You know, it's time. It's high time.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, e-tagging. Yeah, I think it's super important that they have that data. They're going to know where in the unit you were, where you harvested that animal, the time and date and everything. And we need to be responsible, just like harvest reporting. It's like when we were doing Hewlett Packard, Oregon Fish and Wildlife used to contract with them, and I heard far be it from me on statistics and numbers, but I remember $250,000 as being floated as a number as what they paid them to do that harvest phone survey,
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my son, one year, got like 4 or 5 phone calls on the same harvest thing. I mean, how skewed was that?
Can't
It was
be
terrible. And they were
accurate
paying
at
it.
all.
No. And he was, Dad, they're calling again. They're asking the same thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
son. You know, and I never ever got a phone call, but he did, like 4 times in 1 year and 3 times another year and stuff. So he was on the call list, but we need
It's
that
part of doing
accurate data.
well.
It's
Yeah,
part
to
of
be
being
stewards of it.
good stewards
I'd
in the field and being good sportsmen. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd agree.
One last question.
One more.
All right, one more. There's an outstanding number of questions about lions. I don't know if you want to cover that or not.
About
Sure.
cougars?
Yeah, sure, shoot.
I mean,
I just want to know what we can do to manage the cougar population and if there's anything.
So,
for that.
so of course, you can go shoot a lion. You can
Yeah.
you can call a lion in.
I'd like to weigh in just real quick on this one. We did a video. It is the question is, what can we do about predators as far as bobcats and cougars and stuff? I did a video. My uncle's a big, big time. He hunted dogs all his life, and now he's gotten into more of the conservation side. So he helps out with the government trapping.
Right.
Well, it's been amazing, like just the numbers that he's seen himself from even 5-6 years ago. He's getting 4 to 5 calls a week. And that's just in like our little district in Tioga. I mean, that's just in little Tioga, and a lot of them are ranchers getting their sheep killed. I mean,
Right.
and the
Oh
video
yeah,
I did
it's problem lions.
right. The video I did is it was a goat. Lion came in, killed both the goats. It jumped right in their pen. I mean, it was 50 yards, maybe 40 yards from their house at night. Killed both the goats. They ate the liver out of the goats, left them there, and took off. And so
Right.
we went up and tracked the lion and killed it. And but it's just he says it's just crazy the amount of calls that he's getting now has just skyrocketed.
Oh yeah.
With
Yeah.
numbers.
John Brooks is our local government trapper here, and he had a bad accident a couple of years ago, and he's not presently working. But John's been our guy in this area for a long time, and he's a good friend of mine. And so he would always fill our quota in this area, with the lion takes. And I mean, oh my gosh, I mean, he'd tell me, at times he's like, Wayne, he goes, I'm only taking the 911 calls. Like if I got a guy that's got this many dead animals, I'm going to him, and I might have somebody that's just got one animal dead over here. And he goes, there was days that I get 4 or 5 phone calls in one day for all problem lions. And he goes, I gotta figure out, I gotta prioritize these.
Triage it.
Yeah, and anybody in our whole hunting community that's watching this, everybody that has a trail camera, there's hardly anybody that puts that trail camera out, and the first, second, or third animal that walks by, or even, like I say, first, second, or third, it's a lion. And, we've got lions running out our ears. Now, what's amazing to me is I think, and looking from the harvest statistics, I think, black-tailed deer have figured out how to live with a high lion population, because they're, again, gene pool. All the deer that weren't good with lions all died. And that was a long time ago. Remember, we lost this in 94. And when we lost it in 94, measure 18, when we lost it, lion population was the highest it ever been in history. And regardless, we can argue numbers. I think Oregon Fish and Wildlife agrees that we have close to 7,000 or 8,000 cats in the state. Their management objective, what our carrying capacity is around 3,400 or 3,500 cats. Again,
So we're twice.
I hate numbers. But anyway, yeah. And so I would argue that we're probably up around 12 or 13,000 cats statewide. I mean, there's no way to count them, right?
No,
There's no way.
they're elusive as hell.
But when everybody has a trail camera, you guys had wasn't that yours that you posted? And the fawn is. And that fawn didn't escape. I'm sorry. We got what a 18-foot window of a view here, and it's happening right there. And you know how many guys have sent me those over the? There was one where a cow's coming in. This is a couple years back, and this cow's hoof is coming down. The lion's got the elk calf in its mouth, and this cow's coming in to try to beat the lion off of it. Yeah, but it's just a losing deal. I mean, we're a barn full of cats, border to border, and we're a den full of bears, border to border, in this state. I mean, there's no way. They're in trout creeks, they're in the Steens, they're in the Pueblo Mountains. My son hunted the Pueblo Mountains, and if you know where that's at, it's south of Fields. It's nothing but desert. And my son's been down there, and the lions have there was a pretty good sheep population in there in the 80s and 90s in the Pueblos. Yeah, my son went down there chasing mule deer, and there's lions everywhere. There's lion kills everywhere. Had lions walking up to his tent. You know, had a buddy that went with him, and the guy unzips the thing, and there's a lion running off. You know,
crazy.
and it's just lion tracks there. He finds sheep kills down there. My son found sheep kills. Talked to the biologist. Biologist was all interested in. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go in Oregon. I mean, and I stopped in. This was back in 2007. I stopped in Fields, Oregon, to get some diesel, and I was down hunting the Steens, and so she's filling me up, and this gal goes, "So you're hunting, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and she goes, "So I drive school bus in the wintertime." She goes, "You know what runs across in front of my school bus almost once every week?" And I'm like, "What's that?" She goes, "A lion chasing a jackrabbit." So that's one thing you don't understand with lions. I mean, they have a broad diversity of diet. They kill and eat bobcats. They kill and eat raccoons. They kill and eat coyotes. They figured out, lions figured out real quick, hey, I can catch jackrabbits. I can survive in this desert, you know. So if they run out of deer and elk, it's not an issue. They have a broad diversity of diets. Porcupines. How many porcupines does anybody see anymore in Oregon?
Yeah.
Not in Oregon.
That lion, in fact, you know, all the taxidermists used to say they'd take them in, and all the lions years ago would have porcupine quills all up through, and now they don't, because that lion's never going to let that little spiky land beaver walk by. He knows how to flip them over, kill them, and eat them. Yeah, and he's not worried about quills.
Yeah.
So lions is just a huge issue.
So essentially, this is the only way to do this. So, because as hunters outside, it's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
I mean,
I've called in. I've spent probably 200 hours sitting behind a high-end, you know, predator, electronic predator call, and I've killed one lion, and I was about half asleep, and thinking this never works. And I wasn't in an area where this lion had been spotted here the day before.
But it didn't have a fresh kill or nothing.
No, there's been spotted in a guy's backyard, and I knew the area. It's right at my home, and I know the area real well. So it's like my 7th setup. I'm sitting in maple leaves, and you know, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm half dozing off. This never works. It's never successful. You know, I could be home doing yard work. I'm sitting here listening to this stupid call, and it just never works. And all of a sudden I see movement, and this lion's he's 10 feet from me, and he's this far by me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, you know, the first thought, it's about time you showed up to the party. Now, I've talked to guys that are super successful with calling.
Right.
You know, and I'm always all ears.
It's
you know,
dedication.
and I'm using the same sounds they are and everything, but you know, it takes a lot of dedication. It's hard.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's just hard.
but this is one of those tools that the commission could bring in with, like what you talked about with.
We can do administrative removal, which is super successful. I mean, you know, Hepner unit, big success there, removing cats out of there, you know, fawning, elk calf, you know, ratios went up. You know, it's obvious. I mean, you remove cats, you have success.
Yeah.
You know, so same thing on coyotes. You remove coyotes, southeastern Oregon, you remove lions and coyotes, you have success. It's simple. And it's got to be administrative, because they've taken our tools away. We would have gladly, and we only lost that, by the way, back in 94, we lost it by less than 2% or 3% of the vote. And, you know, a lot of sportsmen didn't even vote because they thought, oh, well, we weren't going to lose this. How can we lose this? You know, I heard that a lot. It's like, dude, you don't get involved, we're going to lose this.
Yeah.
And we lost it in Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington County, you know, basically is where we lost it. Portland's where we lost it.
Yep.
And since then, I mean, we are just devastated by lions. I mean,
And it's been tried to be back on the ballot, but it never quite.
I mean, livestock loss
quite
alone,
gets
I mean, millions and millions of dollars just on livestock loss, especially in Western Oregon, Eastern Oregon as well, but especially Western Oregon. Pet loss. I mean, you know, John Brooks has told me crazy stories about, you know, lions, they're intelligent. They come in and they watch that dog and they watch that dog, and they go by that house and they watch that dog, and that's an outside dog, and he's sleeping on the front porch. Pretty soon the dog's gone.
Dog's dead.
Dog's dead. Yeah, it's a real deal.
Well, Wayne, I think this is a good opportunity to kind of get our audience on this. I know a lot of people have been asking us to weigh in, and you know, I think you were a great asset.
Sure,
to sit
sure.
down and
Oh,
talk
I'm
through
thankful
this.
you guys gave me the opportunity to weigh in on this.
Yeah.
I think the big takeaways are, you know, whether your voice may be totally different than anything that we talked about, it's still you have a voice and to weigh in, and no matter what side you're on or however you want, you know, you have a voice in this, and so contact your, you know.
Yeah, this is one thing. I mean, you know, this is our game politics, so to speak.
Yeah.
And regardless, you know, I'm willing to dive into the mud pit. I mean, you look at the state of our nation right now. You got this side and you got this side. No matter whether it's right or whether it's the left side, when you decide to dive into that thing, it's a mud pit, right?
Yeah.
And so, but us being, you know, really passionate about, you know, wildlife and wildlife populations and everything, and our game and our hunting and our outdoor activities. I mean, it's as old as mankind. And I mean, I'm willing to dive into that mud pit. And, you know, there could be people here that disagreed with everything I said, you know, but it's still, you got to dive in. You got to show what your passion is. And I mean, if you agree, you got to get out of that. You know, you got to dive into that mud pit. And if that takes writing letters and making phone calls and everything, you got to act on your passion.
Yep.
You know, so dive in. I mean, you know, I'm willing to put a business on the line if you don't like what I say. I'm willing to lose business over it. I want to preserve opportunity, and so we have to be passionate. We have to take action. So get involved, write those letters. You know, make some phone calls, write some letters.
So anyway, guys, Wayne, Bow Rack. If you haven't ever been there, I doubt most people watch this have ever heard of it, but anyway. It's one of the best bow shops around. Wayne, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Guys, we out on this live? It takes a little bit sometimes.